Now, each year at Never Is Now, we present the Courage Against Hate Award, an award that recognizes corporate leaders who don't just condemn hate, but actively work to dismantle it. And courage, as we just heard, courage is exactly what we all need right now. And courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the resolve to stand firm in the face of it. Courage is not about demonstrating bravery in the face of adversity. Courage is about turning adversity into a force for good. At a time when polarization and toxicity threaten the very fabric of our society, we need bold leadership, not just in the military or in government, but in every corner of our world, including culture, media, and business. Indeed, in an age increasingly shaped by brands, we need corporate leaders who use their platforms for change, who build companies that deliver shareholder value, but that are also rooted in our deepest human values, and who recognize that success is measured not just in the profits we earn, but also in the impact that we leave behind. This afternoon, it is really my great honor to recognize one such leader, my dear friend, Daniel Lubetzky. I've had the gift of knowing Daniel Lubetzky for decades. When he was starting Kind, when I was involved in starting a little bottled water company. But I'm pleased to share with you today that his story is one of incredible perseverance, vision, and a resolute commitment to bridging divides. As the son of a Holocaust survivor, he carries a profound legacy gifted to him by his father, not just one of remembrance of the past, but of action in the present. Daniel's first business venture, Peaceworks, a company created with the explicit purpose of building great products, but also using that process and the profits that it would generate to bring together people previously divided by conflict. More recently, as a business leader, philanthropist, and change maker, Daniel has built more than just successful ventures. He created an iconic brand and articulated a new philosophy centered on kindness, inclusion, and responsibility. Through Kind Snacks, he proved that a company could thrive while standing for something greater than just improved quarterly earnings or higher margins. And today, as a judge on Shark Tank, Daniel uses his platform to support entrepreneurs who share his belief that business can be an engine for good. Now, his impact also extends far beyond the corporate world. Daniel believes deeply that dialogue and collaboration are the antidotes to division and understanding. And unlike so many people that we hear and see and read about, he puts his money where his mouth is, launching innovative initiatives such as the Builders Movement that's leading a nationwide effort to equip citizens to overcome polarization and solve our toughest problems by actually working together. And as an ADL board member, Daniel has helped to lead this organization forward, strengthening our mission, challenging me as the CEO and all of us to always strive for excellence and ensure that we meet the moment with boldness and clarity. And at a time when anti-Semitism and hate, bigotry are all on the rise, Daniel Lubetzky reminds us that courage is not just about fighting against something, it also must be about fighting for something. Because never again can't be an empty phrase. He sees it correctly as a call to action, a commitment we uphold through our words and our deeds, because never is now. For his leadership, for his vision, and for his steadfast, unwavering dedication to combating hate in all forms, I am honored, I am humbled, and I am thrilled to present the 2025 Courage Against Hate Award to my good friend, Daniel Lubetzky. And now I'm thrilled to welcome to the stage my dear friend who will be interviewing and speaking with Daniel this afternoon, the noted author, social entrepreneur, political commentator, civil rights activist, and more than anything, an extraordinary human being. Please welcome to the stage Van Jones. I'll get out of the way. Wait, here comes Van.
Love you.
I'm going rogue just for 1 second to recognize this young kid. You may not know it, but before he took the job, he had a full head of hair.
That's the first time I've heard that joke, so.
This is one of the most important jobs in humanity today in our civilization. Jonathan gives 120% every single minute, morning, day, and it's such a tough, thankless job. He criticizes the far left and gets criticized. He criticizes the far right and gets criticized every single day, and you're like one of our most important treasures, and I'm so grateful for humanity to have you as such an incredibly relentless partner. Thank you. He should get this award.
Love you, man.
Love you, Van.
Hey, first of all,
so hard to try to look cool in front of this guy. I'm like, I have no idea how to sit. He just naturally just looks like a model, and I'm like, do I go like this? Do I go like this? I got no chance.
I've known this guy. When I met him, now he's beautiful, he's brilliant, he's rich. I knew him when he was just
poor.
Yeah, beautiful and brilliant. So, and you are heroic. You are heroic, and I love you. I've known you a very, very long time. It is very hard to do well, and it's very hard to do good. It's very hard to do good by doing well, and you've done both. You are considered probably the biggest hope dealer in the world, but you aren't always feeling good about what's going on. And everybody expects you to light us up and lift us up, but I want to give you a minute. People are hurting and uncertain. And can you just speak to what's going on, what's troubling you, what's bothering you, before we get into all your, the solutions and the frameworks that you have to make a difference? You're not happy every day right now.
Being next to you, Van, does make me happy. Most of you must know how good a friend Van is. We met about a year ago at another conference, and I started crying when I listened to Van speak, because he's one of the most steadfast friends of humanity and of the Jewish people, and very grateful for your partnership. Growing up in Mexico and listening to my dad talk to me about what he went through, I could not connect the dots of how what happened. How was he sent to a concentration camp as a 12-year-old and was liberated weighing 70 pounds and being 6 feet tall, liberated by American soldiers, barely alive. And I just didn't understand how things like that could happen in enlightened Europe. And it's very terrifying that over the last several years I've been able to connect the dots of how things like that happen. Wow. So it's also liberating because then we know what we need to do. We know we need to fight it, and we know the stakes are as big as they are. And they're not just for the Jewish people, they're the stakes for all of humanity, because hate against Jews is the canary in the coal mine. But just like with the Holocaust, where they started killing and killed 6 million Jews, World War II ended up killing many millions others and destroying so much of civilization. And at every step of history, when Jews are targeted, those societies end up declining, because hate against any human being for who they are shows something more broken in that society that is ultimately going to be the undoing of that generation and of that society. So we have our work cut out for us.
Yeah, you know, the thing I love about you, though, is that everybody wants to fight back, but often when we fight back, we wind up making it worse because we can be so intolerant of the people who are intolerant that we become intolerable ourselves, and we wind up creating more and more division. And what I love about you is that you have a framework that we've adopted in my organization called the Builders Framework. And what I think is brilliant about it, and I want you to explain to everybody, is that it gets you out of the trap of going identity versus identity. It's not I'm black and you're white and I'm male and I'm lesbian and I'm this, all that identity stuff. And you go from identity to idea. What is the idea that is motivating you? And that gives you a chance for some redemption. So you give the framework of this builders versus destroyers framework, which I think is a framework that frees everybody from this spiral of polarization that we're in.
So already 20, 30 years ago, I started the One Voice movement with my friend Mohammad Daraoche, recognizing that the media wasn't showing the voice of the people. And back after the Second Intifada, Palestinians thought there was not one single Israeli partner, Israelis thought there was not one single Palestinian partner. And we built the One Voice movement to empower moderates against extremists. But that was incomplete work. Only after October 7th, after 30 years of working with Peaceworks that Jonathan described, and One Voice and many other things, did I connect the dots about how all of these things are interconnected. And our enemies, the haters, the destroyers, would like us to be us versus them. That's what they thrive on, dividing, demolishing, and diminishing humanity. That's what destroyers know how to do. But we cannot fall prey and fall into their traps. We need to understand that all of us as citizens, the overwhelming majority of humanity, like Van says, whether you're Jewish or Christian or Muslim or Israeli or Palestinian, our actions will determine who we are.
That's right.
Our mindset will determine how we think. And you can either adopt extremist thinking and then turn it into action to destroy and diminish and demolish, or you can take action to bring light to the world, to build together, to elevate humanity, and that's what a builder does. Thank you. And if you look at any conflict, and you look at Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, the Islamic Republic regime that's repressing the people of Iran, they don't know how to build great civilizations. They know how to destroy. Right. And tearing things down is actually easier than is building them up. It takes enormous amount of work to build with others. And the biggest warning and concern that I have is that Hamas is smart. They know what they're doing. After 9/11, I didn't understand what Al-Qaeda was doing. Why were they attacking us like that? Did they think that they were going to defeat us as a nation? But as I started understanding their ideology, they wanted to divide us into us versus them. Whether it's Al-Qaeda before or Hamas after October 7th, their goal is to divide us as us versus them, because they don't aim to build a Palestinian state in peace with Israel. They don't aim to build a Palestinian state. They build to build a Ummah, Islamist, extremist thing that the Emiratis, the Saudis, the Palestinian moderates are all afraid of. And for them to achieve that goal, they need to turn us into us versus them. And man, after October 7th, after seeing that horror, after seeing those babies beaten to death, every human being starts questioning whether there's a partner on the other side. Every human being starts wondering whether you should be building bridges with others or just retrench into your garrison and fight. We do need to fight. Like former Defense Minister Yoav Galat said, we need to dismantle the Hamas infrastructure because otherwise there's no hope for builders, whether they're Israeli or Palestinian. We need to replace and dismantle that Hamas infrastructure with an opportunity for builders to start building together.
That's beautiful. Look, the reason I like that is because you could be a destroyer today and change your mind and become a builder tomorrow. You know, I've done a lot of work, as you know, in prisons. And I've seen people who have been some of the most destructive people in my community, taking lives of other black folks, selling poison, selling drugs to children. Absolute destructive people. And something happens, and somebody touches them, and they become the champions of peace and bridge building. They come home, they do amazing things, and I've learned not to give up on anybody. And this political environment really almost punishes people who are naive and stupid enough to believe that, you know, anybody on the other side is any good at all. But what I know is that nobody's a villain in their own movie, right? People think that they're doing the right thing. The young people in my community, African Americans under 30, they're just getting bombarded with computational propaganda. When they open up their phones, they are just getting, it's just Gaza baby, Gaza baby, Gaza baby. They didn't sign up for that program. They didn't raise their hand and say, please make me into an anti-Semite. Please turn me into an anti-Jewish bigot. Please turn me against Israel. At some point, they let the algorithm know they were African American and young, and somebody else is taking advantage of my children. Somebody else is pumping poison into the hearts and minds of my children. And I don't like that. Especially, as we've talked about so many times, as a black person in the United States, we only have one ally. We've only got one friend. There is no black-Swedish alliance, okay? There's no black-Japanese alliance. There's no black Inuit alliance. It's the black-Jewish alliance. It's the black-Jewish alliance. We only have one friend. We only have one friend. And somebody's trying to make sure my children don't know that. Somebody's afraid of the fact that there's this hidden history between our communities. Can I talk about it? I know it's your interview, but I just...
You can talk as long as you want. Just go into...
But I just... 1909, blacks and Jews backs against the wall in the United States. We didn't have a democratic republic at that time. It was really literally apartheid. And we'd had a couple hundred years of slavery before that. This wasn't a democratic republic. Jews were being discriminated against, blacks were being discriminated against, our backs were against the wall. We reached out to each other and we created a black-Jewish alliance called the NAACP. The NAACP was a black-Jewish alliance. And the next year we created something called the Urban League, 1910, another black-Jewish alliance. And we just had the Urban League on stage here today. Give Mark Mariella a big round of applause. Every decade of that last century, disproportionately, black folks and Jewish folks together trying to deepen and defend democracy. And people say, well, why? And I think the most important thing that I love about the Jewish community, chased out of every country for 3,000 years, had to sleep with go bags in case the Cossacks came, get out of there, mass exterminated, murdered in Europe, But every time you got the boot off of your neck a micrometer, just even a little bit, repair the world. Repair the world. The most generous, the most philanthropic, the most helpful. Help this group, help this group, help this group, help this group. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it in human history. And you never stop being Jews in that regard. You never stopped having that cultural DNA of repair the world, repair the world. And we have this cultural DNA in our community, justice for all. So weird, look at the black community. We defend immigrants, even though people say economically they're our competitors. We don't want them discriminated against. We defend gays and lesbians, even though our churches are not so supportive, but we don't want anybody mistreated. So you have this one group with the cultural DNA of justice for all. This other group with the cultural DNA of repair the world. When you put those together, you get a double helix of hope for humanity. That's who we are together. That's who we are together. And we've created, I would go so far to say, what you now call American democracy was disproportionately co-authored by blacks and Jews together. If you like American democracy, thank a black and thank a Jew. You're welcome. We did that shit. So it makes sense to me that our enemies want to drive us apart. If you want to destroy Western civilization, if you want to push democracy back, if you're a white nationalist, if you're an authoritarian, if you're an Islamic extremist, if you hate builders, if you hate people who love, if you hate people who hope, the first thing you do, split the blacks and the Jews. And I am not going to let that happen. I'm going to hold on to your hand till the bitter end. We're going to stay together. They're not going to win. They're not going to win.
I've thought about this a lot, and just like some of the most poor and humble people are the most generous, similarly, people that have gone through so much suffering, through the horrors of slavery, through horrible discrimination. If you go to the Muhammad Ali Center in Louisville, you find out that after Muhammad Ali won the gold medal, he came back to his town and he sat down with the gold medal and they wouldn't serve him coffee. And when you go through that horror, when you go through that suffering, when you go through the Holocaust, when you go through slavery, I think it makes you so much more empathetic. Yeah. And I think that power, for me, the community that has so much soul, so much love for all, is a beautiful partner. But you of all, Van, are at the vanguard of that. And I agree that there's foreign adversaries trying to divide us. There's toxic forces of polarization. And all of us need to be aware of these different forces, where it's divisive politicians, special interests, foreign adversaries, media, and social media, which is perhaps one of the greatest dangers. Because as Van was explaining, everybody in this hall is probably plenty aware of the horrible massacre of the Bibas babies and of what happened on October 7th and of the desecration of Jewish homes in this campus and other, and of students being prevented from learning and borrowing lessons from Austrian and German Nazis to prevent Jewish students from being able to study. And we're very aware of it, and we share those texts to each other, but we don't see the other side. And guess what? The other side doesn't see us. Social media feeds you what they think you want to hear rather than what you might need to hear. So you lose context of reality. That's also why Democrats and Republicans distrust each other so much, why all of these divisions are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's not just incumbent of the black and Jewish communities to join forces against all forms of hate. It's incumbent on us to break those shackles of hate that social media and other forces are placing and educate ourselves on how to build bonds in real life, in virtual life, and methodically work to try to repair those relationships. You know, when you were talking, Van, a little bit ago about how every human being has a capacity for change, it brought to my mind a story that I heard from my father as a kid, but I didn't have the guts to talk about it till a year ago. And I shared it in a TED Talk, and I'll just tell you very quickly. When my dad was around 10 years old, the superintendent, the war had started, he was in Kovno, Lithuania. The war started in 1939, somewhere around 1940 or 41. the superintendent in their building told them, hey, are you hungry? Do you want a bite to eat? And my dad said, yes. He said, come, I'll show you where you can have some food. And he took him down to the basement, pointed him to a dead body, and said, there, that's a Jew. You can eat him. And my dad was obviously traumatized. At some point later, the German paramilitary forces rounded up the building, and this same superintendent pointed him to all the Jewish families. There were 16 other Jewish families. Every single one of them was exterminated. When they got to my family, there's a couple of videos. One is on YouTube, the other one I'm going to load it up later. It's even more brutal. My dad connects the dots. They probably raped my grandmother in the back, but my dad was too young to know it. But then when they brought them downstairs to kill them, the superintendent whispered at the head of the German paramilitary forces something, and they left. And the superintendent turned to my father and said, Mr. Lubetzky, I just spared you. And you know why I spared you? Because every day when I was walking up or down the stairs, you'd look at my eyes and treat me like a human being. And you treated me well. And every holiday you would give me my bottle of vodka and you were always kind to me. So I spared you, but leave before I changed my mind. And that night, my family had to pack a couple things and go to the Kovno ghetto. Eventually they were sent to a concentration camp, but they survived. And for me, Van, it haunts me that I am here today because of the kindness of a pretty evil person. But it also is the reason why I don't want to give up on humanity, because if you extend your hand to the other and you're kind to people, you have the chance to transform those people, to develop a modicum of humanity within them. And I think that's our task. Everybody on these hallways, we need to fight the hate, we need to fight the bad people, we need to neutralize and dismantle the Hamas infrastructure, but we also need to build alliances. We also need to build with love and with hope and build jobs and build opportunities and bridges and elevate humanity. And we cannot allow our enemies to confuse us into thinking that it's all us versus them, because that's what they want.
I don't. I'm not usually speechless. I didn't know that. You know, sometimes you're nice to people and they turn nice, and sometimes you're nice to people and they turn mean. And sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't. And you know what? I've just come to a place in my mind and my heart. People criticize me a lot on the left because I'm always reaching out and trying to figure out, you know, some kind of common ground. And it hurts my feelings. You know, it doesn't feel good to be called an Uncle Tom and a sellout and all these things. And I have 2 good therapists as a result. I love you back. Hey, man. I love you, brother.
I'm a Mexican Jew. I kiss a lot.
Hey, listen, and I like it. I like it. But, you know, somebody said something to me once, I'll share, is just that they said, you know, you keep trying to reach out to these people. You're not going to change these people. You're not going to change them. They're going to be the same way. They're not going to change them. And I said, you don't get it. I'm not trying to change anybody. I'm reaching out because I don't want this hateful world to change me. I don't want it to change me. I want to keep loving. I want to keep trying. And if the haters never change, or if the hateful part of those people never sunsets and lets something else rise in them, that's really on them. But what I know for sure is that there's not enough darkness in the whole universe to drown out the light from a single candle. There's not. and our light matters. It may not matter right away, it may not matter to that person, but it might matter to somebody who's watching. We don't know who's watching. And you know, what I appreciate about you, I mean, I've known you for 30 years. That is a very long time to know somebody. And every single thing you have about yourself, you've used to help other people. I've watched it when you were unknown and didn't have money. I've watched you now that you're rich and famous. And I hope that you realize that it matters to people to have a hero. It matters to people to have somebody they can look up to. It matters to people to be able to point to an example of somebody in business who is excellent at business, but just like our brother said, it's not just the business values, it's also the human values.
You know,
And you don't let enough people tell you how much you mean to us. And you know, one of the reasons I was so proud that I got a chance to be invited to have this interview with you is that I just want you to know, if I get kidnapped by Martians tomorrow and you never see me again, brother, I love you, I see you, I appreciate you, and you are one of the great people on this planet, and we are lucky to have you with us. I love you, brother.
Martians, please don't kidnap him. We need him here. You know, I think heroes are very dangerous. And many years ago when I was building the One Voice movement, I was walking in a hotel in Tel Aviv and I saw then Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, and I say, Prime Minister Rabin, I love you. And he looked at me and I think what he told me is, shut up and do some good work. Stop developing these cults of personality. They're very unhealthy. I'm not going to name names, but there's leaders that I admire a ton, and then they take wrong turns. Every one of us, the more we succeed, the more we fall in danger to thinking that we're infallible or so special. I think what we need to do is recognize that every single one of us can transform the world every single day in how we treat each other, our families, our colleagues, each other, our enemies, how we give grace. Definitely stand up against the terrorists, and we need to dismantle them. I'm not a pacifist. I would like to, and it's absolutely imperative to destroy the terrorist infrastructure, but then you need to build with the broader communities. And I think last week I had a conversation with Dan Senior, and he was at the Jewish community in Dallas, and he asked me he was expecting me to provide hope.
Right.
And I searched for that hope during that conversation, and I got very emotional, and for several days I couldn't sleep well, because after seeing what they did to those babies, to the Bebas babies, and sometimes I don't have hope myself. And then I went on the wrong track because I was trying to search for that hope. And then I remembered, I've never been driven by hope. Ever since I built the One Voice movement, every single thing I've done, it's not based out of hope. It's based out of determination. The determination that I can make a difference. I know I can make a difference. I've made a difference. I will make more of a difference. I've done incredible things, and I'm going to do more. And everyone here needs to be fueled not by hope, but by determination. Determination that we cannot allow the dark forces to win. They represent a tiny minority of humanity. We represent the overwhelming majority, but what we need to do is show up. What we need to do is fill that vacuum of hate, or else they're going to fill that vacuum. So everyone here, please join the Builders Movement. Please join whatever organization you do. Every single day in how you act towards each other, demonstrate that humanity, demonstrate the best that Judaism has to give us, like Rabbi Cosgrove teaches us. Demonstrate the power of tikkun olam to heal the world, the power of treating others the way you want to be treated, and recognize that we have the key inside ourselves. We are that answer. And Van, you're like one of the best partners that anybody can have asked for, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Daniel Lubetzky. Man, I love you, man. Love you, man. Really, really honored to meet you. I guess.